So, my presentation is on audio steganography, aka how we can hide messages within audio files, specifically by using spectrograms, which are like a mapping of an audio file's frequencies. And to do this, we're going to be using two programs, Audacity, which is fairly well known, and then Coagula, which is less well known, but they're both free and very small in terms of file size. They can be a little difficult to navigate for a first-time user, which I'm assuming for this case, especially for Coagula. So I'll try to be as detailed as possible with the instructions here. And of course, I also have the live screen recording here to help us out. But anyway, in this first section, I'm just going to show you basically how to use Coagula to generate sound from a drawing. What we're going to do here is it's pretty simple. There are a few brush options down here, and then there are these other sections that I'm not quite sure what they do, honestly. But anyway, basically every stroke that you make like this, every little drawing, that produces a sound, depending on the way it's shaped. And these down here, these are going to be like lower pitches. These are going to be higher pitches, so you might hear like a bunch of beeping once I render this. This is just a bunch of random stuff. I'm just doodling. And just to demonstrate what this image sounds like, you can press render without blue. And this is actually a very important step. You want to make sure you do this before you export the sound. But anyway, we're going to go to this sound tab, render without blue. Oh, that's okay. I'm probably gonna bring that down in post. This one's probably gonna be really low. It's probably gonna be in the middle, and this one's gonna be high. We're gonna render without blue again. Okay, for some reason they're all really high pitched. I have a feeling I know why. Okay, yeah, that's why. I'll explain this in a second. And it's actually convenient that you couldn't really hear this one. So I'll show that off in a second, but I think by default this is like maybe it's like 1,000 on the high, and then on the low it's like, okay, I changed it back for me. So maybe 500. Let's do 1,000. Oh, that's 10,000. Okay, new image. Now this should sound a little, probably more like a trombone or something. Oh. Okay, sounds like a flute. Something like that. All that is to say, I can write something like this. I'm going to write it down here so that it's not annoying to hear. Just going to write the word hello. And we're going to sound, render without blue. And I'm going to make sure it goes in all the way because I don't want it to mess up. And we're going to save sound. And I have a folder set up here in the Coagula installation, and I'm just going to call it, I already have a file called hello. Whatever, I'll overwrite it. Let's call it hello. And then we're going to go to Audacity. File, import, audio, and hello.wave. And, okay. Yeah, we're going to go to these little dots here by the file name. We're going to go to spectrogram, and then we can see it. For some reason, yeah, sometimes it can be hard to see. Okay, I'm going to redraw that. Okay, so we're back. Yeah, I think it was just the shape. Sometimes like the size of the image affects how it ends up looking on the spectrogram. But you can see there that it says hello. Oh yeah, and if you zoom out, it gets a little bit more legible. So yeah, this is basically what the image sounds like. It's like weird to say, but I hope that makes sense. I'm just adjusting this because, and again, careful with your volume here because this can be very loud, especially if you're wearing headphones like I am right now. But yeah, that's part 1. In a second here, we're going to go to part 2, and we're going to look at a few ways that we might want to hide a message within another audio file, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is really cool, but if we want it to be a secret message, like we don't want someone to notice this, well, it's going to be pretty noticeable, you know? It sounds like a flying saucer is going over your house or something. There are ways to sort of obfuscate that there's something weird going on here. You know, this immediately signals to someone that obviously it's not just a regular audio file. Something's going on. It's been manipulated. So, one very simple way to hide this sound would be to go to... Yeah, we can just put another noise over it, basically. To the point where this is either barely audible or it's functionally not audible unless you really have your volume up. So I'm going to go to generate. Luckily, Audacity has a few types of noise that we can generate here. I'm just going to choose brown in. I don't think it really matters which one you choose. Okay, I put that on the wrong track. Yeah, make sure you have a new track first. Probably just going to use, yeah, just to keep things simple, I'll use stereo. Generate. Oh, and to create a new track, I don't know if I did that too quickly. You just go up to tracks, add new. Choose stereo, mono. These two, I'm not sure what they are. Yeah, I just chose stereo because that's what I already had up here, and there might be problems when I try to mix them later. But anyway, generate. To make sure this track is selected first. Generate. Noise, brown in. That's way too much, so I'm just going to cut it. Actually, I'll leave a little bit right there. And switch this to spectrogram. And we can already see here, like, based on the spectrogram, it's going to be like a constant sound, of course, because it's just noise. So if we play it, if we just solo this, it just sounds like static or like wind. And obviously right now we're probably still going to be able to hear our manipulated audio file. Yeah. Starting to sound kind of creepy. But anyway, if we were to just mix these as is, we can do that by going up to tracks again. This time going to mix and render to new track. We can see our little hello message right there. But it's still going to be very audible. Yep. So what we can do here to make that a little bit less noticeable, let's get this. We can select this. We can choose volume and compression, amplify. Just bring that down, way down. And there we go. Now it looks a little different. We can solo this. It's way more quiet now. If we play them together. Oh, because this is on solo. It's a lot harder to hear. And obviously, like, you can still hear it if you're listening for it. It kind of sounds like a monkey screaming in the distance now. But anyway, if you're really listening for it, you can still hear it. But it's starting to get harder to notice. I hope that if we mix this now, it'll still be visible. Yeah, it's a little faded right there, but you can see it. You could probably blow it back up somehow. Actually, let me try this real quick. What if I Preamplify this. Okay, no. Okay. It's a little faded out now, but we can still see that there was a message there. Maybe if we... Okay. I was just trying to recreate what I did earlier because I was playing around with some of the effects. Just to see what would happen. But it ended up even more faded out this time. But anyway, that's the basic concept. I think something more realistic would probably be like maybe you could hide something within a song and you can play with maybe different parts where the song gets like loud. You could really hide that in there. That would be interesting. But anyway, that was like the most sort of straightforward, basic way you could hide a message within an audio file. Dude, by just literally layering another louder sound over it. Something else we could do is a little bit more tricky to pull off, but I think it's really cool. So basically, I think earlier when I first opened Coagula, I drew some sounds like towards the top up here, and when I rendered it, they weren't really, you couldn't really hear them. That's because I had the maximum frequency of this image set to like 20,000. Oh, I still have it there. I think it defaulted back to it. Yeah. Okay, that's weird. But anyway, I had these sounds up here, like in this range, that you just pretty much couldn't hear. You might hear a little bit of popping because like the speakers and headphones might not be able to like handle it properly. So again, be careful, keep your volume down while you're doing this. Basically, the reason why those sounds weren't audible is because this higher range, these higher frequencies, are frequencies that we cannot hear. It's like a dog whistle, basically. They're going at like 20,000 hertz. These sounds right here, you can see beside the spectrogram that our original image is between like maybe 500 and 1,000 hertz. And this brown noise is, the highest it goes is like 10,000, so we're still well within hearing range. With this, if we set this, the highest pitch to, yeah, just gonna leave it at 20,000, the low at 12,000. And sometimes it doesn't work properly, but I'm hoping this will work. I hope it's not just gonna give me a loud beeping sound. And yeah, I cannot hear that at all when this plays. And I'm gonna save this sound. And we're gonna call this, I'm gonna call it invisible. I guess it's technically not invisible, but it's inaudible, whatever. Invisible.wave. And we're gonna put this to spectrogram. And we can see here, those are the shapes I drew, and still can't hear them in Audacity. Even when these other tracks are muted and everything. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna try drawing something. I'll be right back. I'll just cut back to when I have something done. Okay, and as you can see, I just wrote the word invisible towards the top. And this is important to keep in mind. Of course, you want to be drawing this stuff towards the top because you don't want to hit these lower frequencies because then you'll be able to hear it. Unfortunately, I don't think Coagula has like a tool to display the frequencies directly on the image. That would be a really cool feature. So that I can actually see like which range I'm drawing in. But anyway, I digress. Let's render this. Okay, great. I still can't hear any of it. And that's a good thing. I'm not being sarcastic. I don't want to be hearing it. And I'm going to overwrite invisible with this. Import audio. spectrogram. And I mean, this is tough to see, but if we drag this out, if I just fight with the UI here. Yeah, we can see that invisible is right there. Now, something a little funny happens when we mix this with noise. I don't know if this is just because it's noise, because it's like all over the spectrogram, but sometimes parts of this can become audible. So I'm going to add a new track here. I'm going to generate some more noise. Let me cut this off real quick. Generate noise. Let's go with pink noise this time. Why not? And I forgot to set the length for it again. So I'm going to have to cut all this off. Spectrogram. Zoom in a bit. And I'm zooming in and out with control and scroll, like the scroll wheel, in case that makes things easier for you. We're going to mix this again in a new track. And it's, still see it's right there in the high range. This even, it goes off of Audacity's like frequency range thing here. Anyway, I'm going to solo this so that this is the only track that's audible. And yeah, that just sounds like noise to me. I think that's really cool that you can just write a message and it's not perceptible at all unless you actually look at the audio file. Because a lot of these things, when you see audio spectrogram, steganography stuff, you can very clearly tell, like, it sounds like this flying saucer sound, like this first one. Like that. Oh, it's kind of quiet now, but you heard it earlier. So yeah, that was a really cool part of the project right here, was realizing, like, I was thinking of how you could hide a message, and I was thinking, oh, a dog whistle. You know, they produce a sound that we cannot hear. But yeah, this was like the most advanced thing that I can think of. I'm sure there are more advanced, cool ways to hide audio, maybe even in the lower frequencies. There's some crazy technique to do with like all the effects you can use here, because there's really no end to the amount of things you could do. I imagine you could take an audible secret message, like one of these, put it in here, and then play with the effects so much that it sort of becomes part of the noise, like indistinguishable from the noise, but still visible here. That would be quite difficult, though, because when you do something like, let's just do something crazy. Let's put a wah-wah on it. Oh, that actually didn't make it that crazy. Let's try a phaser. No. Maybe. Oh, I'm starting to look like a fraud here. Here, echo should do something. You see, it starts to get mushed up there. So that's interesting. You could probably make it. Oh, I should probably show you how that sounds. And it even starts to sound a little different. But anyway. Another thing that I noticed that you could potentially use, you could... I think the easiest way to demonstrate this would be with amplify. Yeah, I'm going to take off clipping because it's going to make it really loud if I do that. Let's amplify it by like maybe 18.5. There you go. You can see that it got louder. Probably. Oh no. Yeah, it's more audible now. But if we do this, okay, I forgot to select it again. If we do this, we go to negative 18.5. It's quieter. So I don't know what the practical application of that would be, but you might be able to like invert a sound, sort of like you might be able to hide a sound through a series of effects that you layer onto it in a specific order And if you do that in a backwards order, you could get the original message. I'm not sure if that makes sense. I have not attempted that because it seems like it'd be like way out of my purview. I would have to learn a lot more about audio and like audio manipulation. I just do this for fun, and I thought it'd be a really fun way to integrate that with cryptography, being able to, I guess, encrypt information in a way, in audio files in a way that people usually don't think of. I think if I really had to explicitly tie this back to some of the lessons we learned in the class, I would say something about how this kind of ensures confidentiality. Kind of. I guess it depends on how well you hide the message. It's just that the mechanism for ensuring confidentiality is really being able to tell that something is up, especially with like this file. Because if I play it, I mean, that something's up. But even then, how many people are going to know to load this file into Audacity and look at the spectrogram? I'm guessing not a lot of people. A lot of people would probably just say, oh, that's a weird sound, right? So it's sort of the knowledge that's really the gatekeeper for this sort of thing. But then we get into this, and now you really have to know, like, someone kind of would have to tell you, right? Unless you have a reason to be looking at that audio file, that this is something you could look into. Because with this, again, I don't know if you might have really good hearing, but I don't hear any of that, even though it's showing up here. It's showing up in the playback, and I mean, it clearly has a signature there. It's showing up on the spectrogram. Like, there is data there, but we cannot perceive it. Which is really cool and also kind of scary, I guess. I don't know how that's scary because I don't know how this could hurt you. But anyway, that's the synopsis of all that I did for this project. I go into more detail in the actual lab report document that accompanies this. Yeah, I hope this was interesting. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.